Hey everyone, we are from Tutorial 1, Group 1. Today we will going to discuss about Chapter 1, Globalizations and the closing case for Detroit bikes. Question 1. We are going to describe the shift in the world economy over the past 30 years and the implications of this shift for international business based in UK, North America and Hong Kong. So first, one major shift is the rise of emerging economies, especially countries like China, India and Brazil. In the past, the global economy was dominated by the United States and other developed nations. For example, in 1960, the United States accounted for around 38% of global output, but by 2020 this fell to about 24.7%, while China's share increased significantly. This shows that economic power is become more distributed across different regions. Secondly, global trade has expanded rapidly. Countries such as China, Germany, and South Korea have increased their share of world exports. As a result, international markets have become more competitive. Another important factor is technological change. Advances in microprocessors, the internet, and the telecommunications have made global communications faster and cheaper. In addition, improvement in transportations such as commercial jet, aircraft, and container shipping have reduced the cost of moving goods across the world. This has made it easier for companies to locate productions in different countries. This shift creates several implications for international business. For UK business, globalization increased competitions from emerging economies, but it also creates opportunity to access new global markets. For North American business, companies face stronger international competitions, but they also benefit from global supply chains and outsource to reduce costs. For Hong Kong, globalization has strengthened its roles as an international business hub and gateway to China. Many multinational companies use Hong Kong for trade, finance, and regional operations. For question 2, this statement is incorrect because the study of international business is relevant not only to large multinational enterprises but also small firms. First, even small firms are increasingly involved in the global economy due to globalizations and technological advancements. Small business can easily reach international customers through e-commerce platform and digital market. The internet has reduced barriers to entry, allowing small firms to operate globally without needing a physical presence in foreign countries. Second, small firms often depend on international supply chains. Many small firms import raw materials, components, or finished goods from other countries to reduce costs. Understanding international business helps them manage supplier deal with exchange rates and handle trade regulations. Third, small firms face competitions from foreign companies. Even if a business operates locally, it may compete with import products or international brands. Knowledge of international business helps small firms understand global competitions and develop effective strategies.
I'm going to present question 3. Technology has helped businesses become more global, especially in reaching the international markets and managing the productions across the countries. It also asks whether the globalization of markets and productions will still be possible without this technological change. So, has played an important role in globalizations of markets and productions. First, enhanced communications have made globalizations easier with the development of internet, satellites, microprocessors, and wireless technological as well, so companies can communicate faster and at a lower cost. This helps the firms to coordinate with suppliers and customers across the different country and become more efficiency. Second, advancement in transportation technology have also contributed significantly. Innovations and containerizations have reduced the cost and times of moving the goods internationally. This makes the global trade and international business operations much more efficient. The e-commerce platform has have expanded the global market. The internet has created an electronic global marketplace when businesses can easily access the international brands. This allows the companies to reach more customers beyond their home country. So, fourth, technology has made global productions more easier. Companies can now divide the productions activities and locate each stage in different countries when the costs are lower or resources are better. At the same time, they can still manage the entire productions process efficiency through the modern communication systems, and with this statement has strongly support that the globalization of productions is easier. So let's look at question 4 now. While international business is quite the range now, several aspirants might just want to have a career in domestic business. The difference between the two aspirations and occupations are very greatly. I do not fully agree with the statements because international business is more complex than domestic business, so having a separate course is still important. First, in terms of ethics and corporate social responsibility, international business operate in different countries with different ethical standards and social expectations. For example, company may face the issues like labor practice, corruptions, and environmental responsibility. This makes the international business more challenging than domestic business. Second, international business also involve political and economic risks. Since the firms operate in different countries, they may face the government instability, policy change, and trade barriers. So this risk can directly affect the business decisions and performance. Last but not least, international business must deal with currency and exchange rate. Unlike domestic business, international firms use the different currency, so they might be faced the exchange rate fluctuations. This affects the cost, price, profits, and also the investment returns. So, in conclusions, even though the domestic and international business share some basic business principle, but then the international business has additional challenge. Therefore, it is not the same as domestic business, and a separate course is necessary.
My name is Aini. Today I would like to explain question 5. So how does the internet affect international business activity and the globalization of the world economy? Firstly, the internet will reduce communications and transaction costs. Businesses can communicate instantly across countries through emails or video meetings. This will allow the global office to coordinate their operation faster and at a lower cost. Secondly, the internet increases global competitions. Customers can easily compare the products and the prices from companies around the world. As a result, firms must continuously innovate and improve efficiency to stay competitive. Thirdly, the internet expands global market access. Businesses can sell products to customers worldwide through online platforms. Even small and medium-sized enterprises can enter the international market more easily through platforms like Amazon or Alibaba groups. Finally, the internet will improve the global supply chain management. Companies can track shipment and manage inventory in real time, which help them coordinate with international suppliers more efficiently. Next, I will discuss the possible implications if China becomes the world's largest economy by 2030. First, in the world trading system, China may become the most important trading power. Global trade may shift more toward Asia, and China may gain greater influence in shaping global trade rules through organizations like the World Trade Organization. Second, China's growth may affect the global monetary system. The renminbi may be used more widely in international trade, and some countries may hold more renminbi as reserves. This could challenge the dominance of the United States dollar. Third, US and European companies may increase investment in China and adapt their products to the Chinese market. At the same time, they will face stronger competition from Chinese companies such as Huawei, BYD, and Alibaba groups. Finally, China's economic growth may increase the global demands for resources such as oil and copper. Higher demand may push the global commodity prices upward, which could benefit resources exporting countries.
And now I'd like to talk about question 7, which is Boeing's global production system in a 10-point summary. So in this case, Boeing adopted a global outsourcing strategy to produce its 787 Dreamliner, and different components of the aircraft were manufactured by suppliers in various countries, while the final assembly was completed in the United States. This approach helped Boeing reduce production costs and improve efficiency. It also allowed the company to access specialized expertise and advanced technologies from global partners. In addition, financial risks were shared with these international suppliers. However, the strategy also created several challenges. Boeing experienced major delays due to supplier issues and coordination problems. Managing operation across different countries led to communication and logistical difficulties. While outsourcing benefited foreign economies and created jobs overseas, it also resulted in fewer manufacturing opportunities in the United States. Overall, Boeing's global production system improved the competitiveness but also introduced significant operational risk. For this question 7a, I would like to talk about the benefits of outsourcing for Boeing. So firstly, outsourcing helps Boeing lower production costs by using cheaper labor and materials from other countries. This allows the company to produce more aircrafts more efficiently and at a lower overall cost. And secondly, Boeing can access specialized skills and advanced technologies from global suppliers. Different countries have expertise in producing specific components, which improves the overall quality of the aircraft. In addition, financial risks are shared with international partners. This means Boeing does not have to bear all the costs alone, reducing its financial burden. Outsourcing also allows faster development, as different firms can work on different parts of the aircraft at the same time, which speeds up the production process. And finally, partner countries are more likely to purchase Boeing aircrafts, which helps strengthen Boeing's global sales and market presence. Alright, so after the benefits, now I'd like to talk about the costs and risks of outsourcing for Boeing. So firstly, Boeing has less direct control over production quality and delivery schedule because many components are produced by external parties, so this can affect consistency and reliability. So secondly, delays can occur if suppliers fail to meet expectations. In fact, the Boeing 787 project experienced significant delays due to issues with outsourced partners. And yes, managing global suppliers create communication and coordination challenges. Differences in time zones, languages, and work practices can make collaboration more difficult. There is also a risk of technology transfer or loss of intellectual property, as suppliers may gain access to Boeing's design and knowledge. Finally, heavy reliance on suppliers may weaken Boeing's internal production capabilities over time, making the company more dependent on external suppliers. So, although there are benefits on outsourcing, there are also these kinds of costs and risks of outsourcing itself. And yes, for the question 7c, right, I will discuss on the winners and also losers of the Boeing's outsourcing strategy. So first, foreign suppliers and workers benefit because outsourcing creates job opportunities and helps them to develop new skills in advanced manufacturing. Secondly, partner countries experience economic growth due to increased investment and industrial activity from Boeing's operations. Airlines and customers may also benefit as outsourcing can reduce production costs, leading to more affordable aircraft and improved products. But for the losers, right, there are also negative impacts. US manufacturing workers may face losing jobs because production is moved to other countries. And in addition, the local communities in the United States that depend on these jobs may face economic decline, and domestic suppliers may lose important business contracts. So actually, outsourcing creates both winners and also losers in different groups and also in different ways. Alright, so now we will continue for question 70, which is if all the productions are kept in the United States, what are the effects? Alright, so firstly, production costs would increase significantly due to higher wages and operating expenses in the US. And this would make manufacturing more expensive for Boeing. And next, Boeing aircraft would become more expensive and less competitive in the global market compared to rivals like Airbus and other more. Yeah, so this could lead to a decline in the company's profits and market share over time. However, there are also positive effects if Boeing kept their production in the United States, as it will create more jobs for American workers, especially in the manufacturing sector. And local communities would benefit from increased employment and economic growth. Overall, while domestic production supports jobs, it also reduces Boeing's global competitiveness. Last but not least, I would like to talk about question 7 E, which is the overall impact of outsourcing in the US economy, right? So first, outsourcing helps Boeing remain globally competitive and profitable, which allows the company to compete if it effectively in the international aviation market. So it also supports high-skilled jobs in the United States, such as engineering, research, and design, which are important for long-term development. In addition, outsourcing contributes to innovation and economic growth by encouraging collaboration and the use of advanced technologies. However, there are also negative effects too in outsourcing, which can lead to job losses in the manufacturing sector, affecting many workers and communities. Overall, outsourcing has both benefits and drawbacks. So a balanced approach is needed to ensure economic growth while minimizing negative effects.
Now I will summarize the Detroit Vines closing case. This case perfectly illustrates the massive structural shift in the U.S. bicycle industry over the last few decades. Point 1. The U.S. bicycle industry once produced millions of bicycles domestically. First, it is important to remember that the U.S. bicycle industry was once a domestic powerhouse. Back in 1970, the U.S. was a manufacturing giant, assembling more than 50 million bicycles every year. This wasn't just a simple assembly. The country had a robust industrial base where almost every part was made and put together on American soil, supporting thousands of stable manufacturing jobs. Second, due to globalization, production gradually moved to countries with lower costs. However, as globalization took hold and cross-border tariffs began to fall, the landscape changed. U.S. companies faced intense price competition from abroad. To survive, they began outsourcing both the manufacturing of components and the final assembly to countries where labor and production costs were significantly lower. This marked the industry transition from a made-here model to a source-there model. Thirdly, China became the largest producer of bicycle and bicycle components. As a result, China emerged as the primary beneficiary and the engine room of the global bicycle needs. China didn't just offer cheap labor, they built an unparalleled supply chain ecosystem. Today, they produce over 300 million components annually, everything from tires and tubes to seat and handlebars. Next, by 2018, about 95% of bicycles sold in the US were assembled in China. By 2018, this shift reached a peak of total market dominance. Roughly 95% of all bicycles sold in the US, which is about 70 million units, were assembled in China. This statistic highlights just how extremely dependent the American market has become on Chinese manufacturing and logistics. Also, many US bicycle companies shift their focus to product design and marketing. Finally, because they could no longer compete on manufacturing price, American companies had to pivot. The company that survived became what we call hollow manufacturers. This means that focus almost entirely on high-value branding, engineering design, and marketing within the US, while the actual physical product is manufactured entirely by overseas partners.
Alright, let's continue with point 6 to point 10. The point 6 is talk about Detroit Bike was founded in year 2013 to bring manufacturing back to the Detroit. Founder Zachary Pasha was motivated by the design to revive manufacturing and create a job in the city that have suffered greater from the decline of the auto industry. Point 7 is talk about however the company faced significantly challenge including lack of the equipment and local supplier. Pasha discovered that even basic production machinery have hard to be found, and much of it wasn't even made in the United States anymore. Point X is talked about as a result. Many bicycle components still have to import from the China. Despite assembly frame in the Detroit bike have heavily import in the equipment such as tire, tube, seats, and handlebar. In point 9 is talked about when the US imposed 25% tariff on Chinese imports, it created both advantage and disadvantage for the Detroit buy. The tariff protect U.S. assembly by making import finished but more expensive, giving Detroit buy have the cost advantage. But simultaneously, the cost of their import component jump into 25% also, which raise the production cost and cancel out much of the advantage. And the last point is point 10, is talk about this trend tension force many American companies such as Detroit Bike need to rethink about their supply chains. Some export swift to the Taiwan or Cambodians, but face capacity constraint and uncertainty. In the short run, the more easier solution for many companies was simply to raise the price. That's all for me. Thank you.
So question 1. Outsourcing bicycle productions to countries like China generally benefited American consumers but had mixed effect on American producers. For consumer, outsourcing reduced production costs which led to a lower price and a wider variety of bicycles. This made bicycles more affordable and accessible. For American producers, the impact was actually mixed. Some companies benefit by focusing on designs and marketing while outsourcing manufacturing to reduce costs. However, many domestic manufacturers suffered because productions moved overseas, leading to job losses and a decline in local manufacturing. In conclusion, outsourcing clearly benefits consumers, but its impact on producers was both positive and negative.
So let's move on to question 2. So why did he bring the manufacturing back? Zachary brought bike manufacturing back to the US because he wanted to revive the Detroit manufacturing industry. He believed Detroit still had skilled workers and strong manufacturing potential. He also wanted to create jobs, support the local economy, and build a strong Made in USA brand. Was it economically rational? Yes, it was economically rational. It reduced reliance on import bicycles, support local jobs, and improve the company image. Although the costs were higher at first, it gave the better supply chain control and long-term strategy benefit. So, what challenge did it confront? First, he faced higher costs due to tariff, especially when the US tariff increased the cost of imported parts from the China. Second, the company still had dependence on import China components because many bicycle parts was not available at local. So third, there was a lack of local suppliers in the United States, which made it difficult to fully localize the productions. Fourth, he also faced a lack of equipment and infrastructures, since much of the bicycle manufacturing systems had already moved overseas. Last but not least, that was not difficulty switching the supplier to other countries, because it takes time, investments, and production capacity to move away from China. So to make a short conclusions, Zachary brought bike manufacturing back to the US is to revive the Detroit manufacturing, create jobs, and build a strong Made in USA brand. However, the company still face major challenges such as tariff, dependence on China components, and so on. So that's all for my presentations.
Question 3. How did the imposition of a 25% tariff on import from China by the Trump administration impact Detroit bikes? Did this tariff benefit Detroit bikes? Did they benefit American consumers? What were the unintended consequences of this tariff? Firstly, it created a massive contradiction. While the tariff on finished bikes helped Detroit bikes by making import more expensive, they were hit by the fact that 65% of their own components, like tires and handlebars, still had to import from China because there are no local suppliers. This 25% tax on part completely cancels out any competitive edge they gain. So did it benefit them? No. Zachary Pasha tried to look elsewhere, but countries like Taiwan and Cambodia were already overwhelmed by demand. Some even raised their price to take advantage of the situation, leaving Detroit's bikes stuck between high cost and no alternative. Thirdly, as for the American consumer, they were the ultimate loser. This tariff acted like a hidden tax. forcing almost all bike companies to raise their price. Consumers simply paying more for the same product. Finally, we saw several unintended consequences. By late 2019, only 28% of companies managed to move their supply chains. This paralysis happened because shifting a whole industry is very difficult. Furthermore, foreign suppliers hesitated to build new factories outside of China, fearing that if the trade war ended, their investment would become useless when production will return to China's more efficient ecosystem.
Good morning, everyone. Now we will discuss about question 4, which is what does this case tell you about A. The benefit of international trends and globalization. B. The challenges associated with the resolving manufacturing. And C. The intended and unintended consequence of import tariffs. Now we will move to the first, the benefit of international trends and globalization. The case clearly shows that for decades, globalization allowed US bike companies to outsource production to China, which cost is more lower. This leads a massive increase in efficiency and affordability. American consumers direct benefit from access to the wide variety of the high-quality, low-price bicycle. The industry itself shifts focus to the design and marketing, leaving the manufacturing to countries where could achieve economy of scale. This is the classical benefit of comparative advantage production when more efficient to the lower cost for everyone. Second is the challenge of insourcing manufacturing. Detroit Bike story in the textbook is one of the examples of how difficult it is to reverse globalization. The challenges are immense. As a Pasha said, when you send a whole industry overseas, it is hard to bring it back. The case highlights two major hurdles. The first one is the lower supply chains infrastructure, and the second one is erosion of the supply base. Even if you want to make a bike in the US, you can't find basic equipment or any local company to make the small components. You are forced to import them and tie your cost to the global market and tariff. It is a chicken and egg problem. The manufacturing capacity disappears when the industry leaves, making it costly and difficult to rebuild. And the finally is intended and unintended consequence of import tariff. The tariff import in this case is clear intended consequence. They are designed by the protect domestic assembly by making a foreign built bike more expensive. For Detroit bike, the part work giving them temporary competitive edge. However, the intended consequence was more damaging. First, because the Detroit bite on the Chinese components, the same tariff raised their production costs, directly harm very company in means to help. Second is the tariff create a massive uncertainty. Supplier in Taiwan and Cambodia was heritage to build a new factory to replace the Chinese production because they fear about the tariffs and would be removed, and they will lose their investment. This uncertainty will make the supply chains paralysis, with only 28% of the American companies shift away from the China. And in the short term, the easier, more predictable outcome will from the company to simply raise price for the American consumer, undermining the original goal of the production domestic industry. That's all for me. Thank you.